Now that the New York Islanders have the first pick in the 2025 NHL Draft, how do they best maximize that value? We break down some of the choices that'll have a big impact on the future of this franchise coming up next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Wednesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm going to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. We have got a busy show today. We're going to start discussing who the Islanders should take with the first overall pick, or maybe should they trade that pick? We'll talk about some of those possibilities. Plus, we continue our player-by-player review of the Islanders season and the future of each player. Today, Anthony Duclair. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey. And look, we're going to start with the first pick. And there are 3 players who I think are considered the most likely to be the first pick. And, you know, different scouts kind of have different takes on it. But realistically, you've got these 3 guys who are ranked head and shoulders above other prospects. The number 1 ranked prospect is defenseman Matthew Schaefer. He is a native of Hamilton, Ontario, 6'2", 183 pounds. He is one of the youngest prospects in this draft. Actually, only 10 days away from not being eligible this year and having to go in next year's draft. He's 17 years old. So clearly you are getting a younger player if you go the Schaefer route. And he only played 17 games last year with the Erie Otters of the OHL. Now, he had 22 points, 5 goals, 17 assists in those games. Why did he miss time? He started off the season with mono and then broke his collarbone at the World Juniors. But that being said, there are a lot of experts who really believe that Schaefer could be a very, very big talent. And, you know, getting him would certainly fill a need. Here's what Craig Button of TSN up in Canada had to say about Schaefer. He's like a Drew Doughty. Matthew Schaefer controls the game everywhere on the ice and in all situations. A number 1 defenseman is what he is. For The Athletic, Scott Wheeler. His brilliant, frankly incredible skating. He's the best skating defenseman in the class. That really elevates his projection as a potential number 1 defenseman and two-way transition monster. He's got great posture and glide and is a balanced and flowing skater with light edges and great posture on his heels, skating backwards as well as his toes going forward. He's mobile in all 4 directions, but his ability to fly north-south, transport pucks down the ice, track back when he's carrying end-to-end, go back and get pucks, and catch guys defensively is elite. He would be considered the Islanders' best defense prospect since Noah Dobson, and probably he would be considered higher as far as the prospect potential is concerned than Dobson was when he was drafted back in 2018. Michael Misa is the next player on this list. He played center again last year, but the previous season they had shifted him to wing, and that is, he shows a little versatility, but I think he certainly did better as a center. He served as captain for his team, the Saginaw Spirit, so that was certainly impressive. And basically 62 goals and 134 points in 65 games. That is the most by an OHL skater since Patrick Kane had 145 points all the way back in 2006, 2007. And keep in mind that 134 points matches what John Tavares put up the year the Islanders selected him. But again, Tavares played 2 more games. Here is again the breakdown from The Athletic and Mr. Wheeler. Misa is a beautiful skater with some quiet explosiveness and a real knack for weaving, cutting, turning, and spinning in control of the puck to either shake defenders under pressure in the offensive or defensive zones or slip past them in transition with his speed and agility. He's also a very smart player who makes his line mates better with his playmaking, vision, and ability to execute when tightly covered. Misa had an outstanding season. And then the third option, there's a sentimental favorite, I think, for some Islander fans, in James Hagens. From Hauppauge, Long Island, grew up an Islanders fan. Entering this season, he was the consensus number 1 pick. But he elected to play in college rather than return to juniors. And I think even though he had a solid college season, it really kind of hurt his draft stock. He's 5'11", 18 years old, played at Boston College, and had 11 goals and 37 points in 37 games. He also had 5 goals and 4 assists in 7 games at the World Juniors, and he was on the same team with Cole Yzerman and Danny Nelson, 2 Islanders prospects. Obviously, the fact that he grew up an Islander fan, grew up on Long Island, definitely, makes him a sentimental favorite, adds a little juice to that pick if that's who the Islanders end up selecting. And, he played a strong season, a point-a-game player, even if it wasn't quite the unbelievable dominance that Misa showed. Again, Wheeler speaking about Hagens. I'm still very high on Hagens, but some scouts wanted to see him score more and get to the net more than he did in college. There were a couple of games against bigger, older, heavier college teams where it hasn't come as easily as it did against his peers. Again, first of all, he's 18. Obviously, he will continue to mature. He will continue to get bigger physically and gain experience. So, yeah, there was an adjustment period. No doubt about that. But ultimately, the numbers were just not off the charts amazing. Out of the 3 players we mentioned, though, Hagens did play last year against the toughest level of competition. So those are the 3 options. And look, I don't have an immediate answer right now. But here's the ultimate thing that the next general manager of the Islanders, whoever that ends up being, has to decide. And it's this: who in the long term makes the biggest impact on the New York Islanders franchise to help them get from where they are at the bottom of the muddy middle right now to where they want to be, which is a team that can contend for a Stanley Cup for 3, 4, 5 years in a row. You want to be the next Toronto Maple Leafs, Dallas Stars, Colorado Avalanche, Edmonton Oilers. You want to be one of those teams that every year you're among the teams that most people expect to have a good shot at winning a Stanley Cup. And, does locking down a potential number one defenseman get you there quicker? The Islanders' prospect pool doesn't have a potential number one defenseman out there. You've got some talent, but left shot defensemen and potential number one defenseman, not in this prospect pool. The Islanders do have a sniper in this prospect pool, potentially in Yzerman, who everydayers, we've talked about him many times on this show, but he's still a year or two away. And again, keep in mind, look at some of the top picks in recent drafts. Even if the Islanders draft Misa or Hagens and they turn out to live up to all of their advanced billing, and they develop into a top-line player, an all-star, and all of that, don't expect that to happen right away. That's not how it works. You draft a player like a Macklin Celebrini, who, the Sharks took last year, or a Connor Bedard, who the Blackhawks took the year before. And, what are they going to get you in their rookie year? 20 goals, 25 goals, flashes of excellence. Again, you're talking about an 18-year-old playing against men, or significantly older, more mature men. It is not usual that you would just draft any one of these three guys and expect them to be the next Dennis Potvin or Brian Trottier or Mike Bossy from day one. That's not usually how this goes. So the question that the next general manager must answer is, who has the biggest long-term impact on this team if you draft them? And we have to see who that's going to be, and I'm going to break down the skills, pluses and minuses of all these players between now and the draft. We'll have some experts weigh in and a lot more, but that's the key question once we have a general manager that has to be answered. We have got more to get to on today's show. There's been a little bit of buzz about maybe the Islanders should try to trade this pick. We're going to discuss what that would look like and how it would impact the Islanders. Plus, for our Islanders birthday of the day, a big physical forward who was with the Islanders from 1999 to 2003. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. So trading this pick, it's something that has been brought up. And I don't think it's likely. I'll be honest. I just don't think that it's something that the Islanders are going to want to do. But there are some things that would make sense. And here's how. And keep in mind that making a trade under these circumstances would really only happen if certain stars absolutely perfectly align. So the Islanders right now have the first pick. And the second pick belongs to the San Jose Sharks. The Chicago Blackhawks have the third pick. Utah Hockey Club has the fourth pick. And we'll go to 5, where the Nashville Predators have that pick. If the Islanders don't want to take Schaefer, who is the consensus number 1 pick, they could find a trade partner who really wants Schaefer and get extra assets. But keep in mind, the stars would have to align in that. Let's say the Islanders want Hagens, or let's say they want Misa. You've got to be in the top 2 probably to get Misa, and you've got to be in the top 4 or 5 to have a chance at Hagens. So if the Sharks, for example, really want Schaefer, would the Sharks send the Islanders some extra picks or a prospect or a player, and then the Islanders just move back 1 spot and take the player they wanted anyway with the second pick, if that player is Misa or Hagens or someone else? That's a win-win situation as far as the Islanders are concerned. The problem is this. If the Sharks know that the Islanders aren't going to take Schaefer, and they really want Schaefer, they know that they can wait it out. So they don't have to make the trade unless the Islanders, they believe that the Islanders could realistically take Schaefer. So the stars kind of have to align. Now, the Islanders already have 2 picks in the 2026 NHL entry draft. And that is considered a stronger and deeper draft than this year's draft. More top-end talent, deeper. This draft, supposedly, again, there are no generational talents available. Okay? But you've got right now, if you're the New York Islanders, that number 1 pick in your hands. Even if you trade that pick for an extra, a third first-round pick and a prospect or a player, there is no guarantee, and the Sharks will tell you this, of the worst team winning the lottery. In fact, the odds of the Islanders winning the lottery 2 years in a row, not very good. So the question becomes, and again, the new GM would have to answer this. Do the assets you get for trading back 1, 2, 3 spots, 5 spots, whatever it is, make up for not using the first pick this year? And if you want to try to get a pick in next year's draft, where does that leave you? Because, look, I don't want to temper anyone's enthusiasm, okay? The winning of this lottery pick speeds up the Islanders' retool, for sure. But it's still a retool. And I hope the Islanders, if they stay healthy and make the right moves this offseason, the team will be better this coming season than they were last year. And they should be better. But it's a process. And it is unlikely that the Islanders go from the bottom of the muddy middle, where they were last year, to an instant contender based on the way this roster is put together. And I think, realistically, the next year, 2026, 2027, which may very well be when Danny Nelson and Cole Iserman and some of these other prospects come. You got Caleb Ritchie. He'll start to be in a really good spot. Whoever you pick this year in the draft, whether it's the first overall pick or you trade back to third or whatever it is, that player will start to mature and really realize his potential in a couple of years. All of those ducks in a row sort of lead you to believe that 2026, 2027 is when, hopefully, and that's a short retool, keep in mind, that's when this starts to come together and you start to see the fruits of the labor that this new GM, whoever it's going to be, manages to, make the right moves, and that's when it starts to come together. It is a very narrow group of teams. Like, I can't imagine trading back to more than fifth in this draft. And then you would need one of the other four teams in the top five to say, yeah, we really want our guy, and we're willing to part with another player, another prospect, or another first-round pick. If the Islanders could get a third first-round pick in 2026 and still have a top five pick in this year's draft, would I do that? Yeah, I probably would. But the stars really need to align. And I think knowing you've got the first pick in this year's draft is a really big value for this Islanders franchise. There are no guarantees that you'll get even close next year, even if the Islanders struggle again on the ice. So I don't think a trade is likely. It would have to, like I said, everything would have to align perfectly to make it happen. Would I rule it out if I'm the new GM? No, I wouldn't. But the return has to specifically be either another number one pick next year, in addition to flip-flopping this year, a prospect who can, help the Islanders retool even more, or a player who's ready, like a solid middle, second line forward, who's young and under contract for a while. There are things that would make sense, but it's a very narrow group of possibilities, and the stars would have to align. All right, we have got more to get to on today's show. We continue our player-by-player review of the Islanders season with the Duke, Anthony Duclair. I know it wasn't pretty, but we're going to break it down and talk about his future with the team. We'll also have our Islanders birthday of the day. We'll discuss the impact of Duclair next year and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
An award-winning mattress can change your life. I speak from experience. It happened to me. After years of uncomfortable sleeps, I recently switched to Bare Mattress, and the results were instant. Bare Mattress is designed with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. I used to deal with night sweats, but Bare's best-in-class cooling ensures optimal temperature regulation, which prevents overheating and helps me stay comfortable all night long. Bare offers a wide variety of mattresses, but to get the right one for you, take their sleep quiz that matches you to your perfect mattress based on body type and sleep preferences. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
So we continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders from last year and how they fit in next year. Every day, as you'll remember, we did Mark Gatcomb yesterday. On Monday, we started with Matthew Barzal, and we're going to go through the entire roster over the course of this offseason. Today, Anthony Duclair, and no doubt the Duke had a very disappointing season for the New York Islanders. They signed him as their big free agent. He got hurt 5 games into the season. didn't take long, right? Anthony Duclair, 5 games into the season. He played eventually another 39 games, but in the 44 total games that he played, only 7 goals, 11 points. He was a minus 15, plus minus. And keep in mind, he had more ice time this year with the Islanders than he did during his post-trade deadline stint with the Lightning last year. And he had 15 points in 17 games. With the Lightning, he played 36 seconds more per game and just didn't produce for the Islanders. Now, it is difficult for me to give a good grade to Anthony Duclair. He did not play well. He wasn't a factor. He wasn't noticeable more often than not. And, originally when the Islanders signed him, he was going to be a first-line guy, right? You're bringing him in to be with Bo and Barzy, and that's going to be your top line. And again, we saw that trio together and healthy for all of 5 games. And here's the thing about Duclair. His best asset, or one of his best assets, is his speed. And you lose that burst and that speed when you have a groin injury, which is what Duclair suffered this year. He was not productive. He did not live up to expectations. He did not play well. I don't think there's any debate there. But, I would give him a D, really, for this season, but with the caveat that clearly he was not healthy, and we need to see what he can do if and when he is healthy. Over the course of his career, Duclair has proven he can put points on the board. He is a solid middle 6 winger who can help on the power play. Yeah, he's played with a lot of teams, and I know a lot of people view that as an issue, and it may very well be, although I've never heard anybody say he was a bad teammate. Can the relationship between Anthony Duclair and Patrick Roy be repaired? Remember, Roy coached Duclair in juniors, and that the fact that Roy was the coach was one of the reasons that Duclair signed with the Islanders. If Roy is back, can Duclair, patch up his relationship with Roy and start fresh this year? If Roy is not back, does Duclair want to play for whoever the new coach is, or does he want to look for another place to play because he's not going to play for Roy, and that's why he came here in the first place? I've heard people say the Islanders should buy Duclair out. I wouldn't rule that out, but I don't think it's the best option. He also does, of course, have that full no-trade clause. To me, I want to see what he can do when healthy. I'm willing to give him another year. I think, again, this roster is still up in the air, but I think he's a second-line winger if he returns healthy, and he can help this Islanders team if he's healthy and he has the right attitude. Let's see whether or not he can do that. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 48th birthday of former Islanders winger Brad Isbister. The Edmonton native, originally a third-round pick of the Winnipeg Jets back in 1995, made his NHL debut with the Phoenix Coyotes in 97-98. Remember, that was the original Winnipeg Jets. They moved to Arizona. Joined the Islanders in 1999-2000, scored 22 goals, 42 points, and 100 penalty minutes that year. Stayed on the island for 3 full seasons, and most of a fourth was traded to the Oilers late in the 2002-2003 season. Played for Edmonton, Boston, briefly for the Rangers, and then Vancouver before hanging up his skates after the 2008-09 season. Scored 106 goals, 222 points, and in 541 NHL games, 615 penalty minutes. add a goal and 3 points in 18 playoff games. For the Islanders, he had a goal and an assist in 3 playoff games during his tenure with the team. One of his better games with the Islanders, November 21st, 1999. Islanders visiting Edmonton to take on the Oilers. Felix Potvin, the Islanders goalie. Bill Ranford is the goalie for the Oilers. And our Islanders' birthday of the day, Brad Isbister, kicks off the scoring late in the first period. Jamie Heward with the only assist. That makes it 1-0 Islanders. But in the second period, the Oilers score 3 unanswered goals. But after the Islanders pull to within 3-2, Brad Isbister, our Islanders' birthday of the day, scores an unassisted goal, his second of the game, 7th of the year. In the end, the Islanders and the Oilers skate to a 4-4 tie with Mariusz Czerkowski tying it with less than 3 minutes left. It is a 27-save effort for Felix Potvin, the game ending in a 4-4 tie. But for Brad Isbister, 2 goals. He was a +2. He had 4 shots on goal and played 18 minutes and 11 seconds. So Brad Isbister, power forward for the New York Islanders. He is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders throughout this busy and exciting offseason. And it's great to talk a little Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow. Hopefully we'll have a little more news on the GM search. And we will talk about Tony DeAngelo's season and potential future role with the Islanders. So make sure you join us for that. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.